You're listening to FNR, Football Nation Radio.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website, dkpco.com.au, or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
Victory looking to build. Barbarouses is quick. Is he in behind Topo Stanley? It doesn't matter! Costa Barbarouses! Wow!
Like a salmon, a spawning salmon. And Diamante again! Oh, he's got it!
Unbelievable kick. Come on here.
Well, I think it was only in the post-match press conference when one of the journos brought it up that it dawned on Jake Brimmer with 2 medals clanging around on his neck, his FFA Cup winners medal and his Mark Viduka medal shared for best on ground, that he was going to go to Japan and play against Andres Iniesta, and sort of smiled to himself, couldn't quite believe the question he was being asked, and said, yeah, why not? Of course we can beat them. With this team, we can do anything. Hello and welcome to the Oz Football Hour here on FNR Football Nation Radio. I'm Josh Parrish. I've got Jason Goldsmith here with me as per usual. And victory, you can understand the confidence because morale was high after that FFA Cup victory. It was a great atmosphere, a great finish to the match, and I think a well-deserved title for Popovic's boys.
Absolutely, Josh. Good to be here again, but just a great moment in Australian football. We love the FFA Cup finals and a big, loud, vocal crowd getting into it with some amazing goals and a great result. And the home team wins again, as they have done all the time. But yeah, that was one of the highs for the last week of Australian football, that's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it was a bit of a damp squib of a first half, but I don't think anyone really remembers or cares about the first half after they saw what happened in the second with 3 beautiful goals.
All of them were great, weren't they? Davidson's free kick was amazing, and then Economides, who you mentioned last week, that spark off the bench. How's that for a absolute worldie to get through? Crowd really celebrated in the terraces there, which was fantastic. And then obviously Oliver Bozanic against his old team, trying to get one back in injury time, but not quite enough for the Mariners. Nice touch on the Mariners too, having their childhood or their first ever junior club on the patch of their shirts too, if you noticed. That was it was really good.
Yeah, I saw that on Marco Arena's Instagram, I think. He was particularly enthused by it because they would have had to do some research to see which Costa Rican team he'd played for as a kid.
That's what I think, yeah. So that's a nice little touch that the Mariners brought to the FFA Cup, or now going to be called the Australia Cup. And no real rest for that competition. The fixtures and the draws that come out for some of the state federations today. Yeah.
What do you think about the new name, Jason, the Australia Cup? It's been the worst kept secret in Australian football for quite a while, but they finally made it official on Saturday night.
Look, I think it's a good point of difference because the FFA, now that we've called the FA, the FA Cup remains something else to football fans, so it needed a new name. Australia Cup I'm okay with it. It's good. A little bit of difference. Some people aren't happy. They thought it should have been named after a personality or some historical part of the game. I'm okay with it. I think it should be all right. I mean, the shape of the trophy is exactly the same. They got that from the start. So,
yeah, I mean, that's a nice bit of symmetry between the two competitions. I mean, the Australia Cup ran just through the 60s.
Yep.
The last one was 1968. If my memory is correct.
Yeah,
not memory, research, I should say. Memory of my research. I wasn't around, but...
Yep. So just from the 60s. So there's been other knockout competitions and this. So there's, different historians have different views on what it should be called or what are we backtracking, and if you want to do the family tree and that kind of thing. But look, we're trying to establish our own history with it. The fact that we have a knockout cup competition, which we were screaming for a while, has come about. It's been one of the better things that have come from the Lowy administration. now we're just pushing for the national second division and some promotion and relegation, and we'll tick a lot of boxes that everyone wants and screaming out for.
I mean, this is maybe a bigger discussion about what the FFA Cup represents and its triumphs and its pitfalls. It's sort of the circus comes to town, but it also leaves town for these lower division clubs who don't have an opportunity to get promoted to a higher level. And I did notice a little bit, especially under the previous TV deal, a little bit of dissension in the ranks among how Fox Sports was sort of treating it as MPL food safari, and it was all about the Chivapi and not really about the clubs and the football.
Yeah, that has changed a little bit, and hopefully that's not a focus anymore. We want to look at what the competition can bring. And we talked about Elvis Kamsover a few weeks ago, that he was kind of discovered in that, and then he's progressed to, having a wonderful career and representing his country and that kind of thing. So we are discovering some young players. We're getting some upsets with the A-League teams getting knocked off by some of the larger NPL teams over the few years. Look, the trophy, the FFA Cup or the Australia Cup, the logo is going to start to resonate after it's been around for a while now, that people know and can recognise the trophy. So if it continues to move on, I think it's worthwhile. It's a great competition, and if you can, it pretty much starts this weekend, doesn't it? I mean, you did the draw for the Victorian clubs today.
Yeah.
And I think the Queensland fixture's out too. And you can get to your own piece of the Australia Cup just down the road. I'm sure if you check it out and go on their website, there's plenty of games to check out. And they are fantastic atmospheres.
Well, I can only speak for Victoria, but that draw happened this afternoon for the State League 4 and 5 clubs. So that's round 1. So those games are happening this weekend.
Yep.
So we finished the final. It's a year-round sport now. Finally.
It is. But we talked about that. I think the final that happened was supposed to be many months ago.
Yes.
But there's a lot of hold-ups with border closures and the like in the
Well,
in the world
it had
we live in.
2021 all over the posters and the branding and the archway that they had for the presentation. So you could tell this was a bit of an anachronism.
But silverware means something. Look, do you tell all of those players and all of those fans that it doesn't mean anything? And like, that atmosphere was fantastic. The place was rocking. The result went to the home team. The Mariners fans came down in pretty good numbers for them.
Yeah.
And it made for a great contest. It's Saturday night football, and it was well worth watching.
Well, my big takeaway from the night was the atmosphere and the fact that you only really need 15,000 inside Amy Park to make it a truly memorable, rocking atmosphere, as long as you have the active support. And you had an entire active end going nuts. They spilled onto the field at one point in stoppage time when Chris Economides ran into the crowd, and I think some people got pushed over the barrier. I was glad that there was no real hand-wringing from the usual suspects over that, because I thought it was fantastic. And, no one got hurt, I don't think, and everyone got back into the stand in pretty orderly fashion before the presentation. So, I mean, it's just good flavour. It's good fun.
It's a great stadium for football. I mean, we've had some great atmospheres with the Socceroos game the week before against Vietnam. But then you counter it. There's a lot of ups and downs with Australian football this week. I watched the Wanderers on Thursday night in their stadium with, safe standing and the rest of it, and they are not there. The crowd's not there. Hopefully that changes a little bit. But we want the Wanderers to be back in it with a rocking rectangular stadium like they had at the start before they sort of went AWOL for a few years while they built it. Again, another great stadium that could provide the atmosphere and sort of kickstart it again. But well done to Victory. That was a fantastic night and a great result for them.
I think the biggest storyline to come out of it was the atmosphere and the night itself. I guess the second one is the quality of the goals. And also the fact that both teams participating in the final, and I think we talked about this a little bit last week, have come off a massive change in trajectory.
Yep.
The Mariners, it was as recently as 2019 that there were pieces being written about them saying they could be relegated from the A-League. The league without relegation because they were so bad, because there was apparently a clause in the member in the franchise contracts or whatever that said that 3 wooden spoons in a row was enough to be removed from the competition. Obviously that clause was not enforced, as it wasn't in FFA's interest at the time, and it certainly wasn't in the league's interest once they took over the clubs took over the running of the competition. But that just shows where they've come from, and to get to a cup final is an astonishing achievement versus Victory, 2 seasons in the muck and their usual standards.
Just turn it around, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a huge achievement for Tony Popovich in a very short space of time.
And is that his first, outside of the Asian Champions League, his first domestic trophy, isn't it? His first
The
domestic
Premier's
title?
Plate
the
with
Premier's
Perth
Plate, yes,
Glory, I think, would be the other one.
Well, his first final win,
Yeah.
then, of note, which is great. So congratulations to Popper. That's
I don't think he won anything in Greece or Turkey, as far as I know.
I'm not sure he stayed that long in Greece or Turkey, to be honest. Disappointing, no Jason Cummings. We were hoping and we were praying and crossed our fingers, and it didn't eventuate with the coming down with the ruling. That's no pun intended there, that he wasn't going to play. So yeah, we'll see what he does with the Mariners in the coming weeks.
I think off air we were wondering where Jason Cummings might end up after the match. And I actually got a little exclusive from the Mariners media guys who were down there. It was the Carlton Club was the destination.
Okay, nice.
I don't know if they ended up there anyway on the losing side. I guess he wasn't playing, so he had free reign. But camera cut to him in the stands at one point. He seemed kind of slightly bewildered not to be out there. But, you know, we spoke about last week. I disagree with the decision-making. I think it was a bit unfair, and also just get your best players on the pitch. That hurt the Mariners. I think they could have been more of a threat in this game, and they got stuck in their own box in the second half trying to defend, and they didn't have that outlet that I think maybe Cummings could have provided, at least for, you know, the first hour or so before he was completely gassed.
Yeah, they sit or a spark off the bench either way. But
exactly, yeah. So in terms of the goal scorers, I thought it was fitting that two former Perth Glory Popovich players stepped up to the plate with the two goals. The free kick from Jason Davidson, I don't think it was a free kick that anybody expected him to take.
Agree.
But it was a beautiful strike with his left foot, and same goes for Chris Economides. Firstly the quality of the pass from Marjota, but the chest control and the half volley was absolutely sublime. I think shows why those two players could well be in Socceroos contention if they keep this up.
Well, they're the guys. They're the guys that we want to do well when they return to the A League, because we've got these guys coming back now that are still within their prime. They're not sort of getting their last ever paycheck. It's not like the old Melbourne Heart days where the Socceroos would make it a graveyard, would come and you'd see, you know, Aloisi and Vinigrella and these guys that were sort of well past their best, which is a shame. These guys could still go back and sign for overseas clubs or have aspirations for the national team. But both of those goals were amazing, made a massive difference, and then Ollie pinched one back to make it a little bit interesting. But
for about 30 seconds.
Yeah, for about 30 seconds. I know. But yeah, Economides' goal and the reaction afterwards, that was just what we want from Australian football. It was amazing. You know, that's the kind of noise, that's the standard we want.
And obviously, you know, it was a one-off game. It was the final. But in terms of going forward for victory, it sets them on potentially a trophy-winning path. And I thought one interesting point to come out of it was, to me, the clear indication, as we've seen earlier this season, that Nick D'Agostino is more effective as an impact substitute than he is as a starter. Yep. And fair enough, he played his way into form, he played his way into the team. But for me, his best attributes are ones that come to the fore late in the game, his physical attributes.
Yeah, and it's maybe a mental thing too. Maybe he's angry when he's on the bench and he provides that spark. You know, because these guys want to start. They don't want to play 90 minutes.
He does kind of play angry, doesn't he?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, he's a bit of a bull up front.
He is. But what a come down is going to be for the victory, playing in front of 15,000, you know, screaming fans, to playing tomorrow night behind closed doors in Wollongong.
Yes. Well, let's get to that. Wellington Phoenix have decided to close the doors on their home game in Wollongong after giving away a home game to MacArthur in the last match.
That was on Sunday, and the strange thing about that, so they played MacArthur at Campbellfield as the home team, but MacArthur were wearing yellow away strip, and Wellington weren't wearing their normal colours.
No, they were both wearing away strips.
I know. Again, it'd be a little bit silly. You're tuning in to watch Wellington and the yellow team's MacArthur.
I actually got really confused when I switched it on.
Same thing, and you're going, all right, what's going on here? And then you think, well, you know, the rules are they can't play at home, and they get 500 at their last home game at Wollongong. And so the news come through today. They're supposed to be hosting Melbourne Victory at Wollongong, and they're making the game behind closed doors. No one can actually attend.
Yep. So this is a financial call. This is not anything to do with COVID or travel restrictions. Really, it's just apparently they couldn't find a match day sponsor for the game, which would help them with the cost of actually booking the stadium to open up the stands and the concessions and so forth, I imagine. It's
not a good look. It's really not a good look. So it's
a throwback to Clive Palmer and Gold Coast United back in the day.
But they launched February. This is going to be a festival of football, and it's $20 a ticket, and you can go for $20 to any game of the A-League for the whole month. And I think every single day of Feb, there's either a A-League women's or A-League men game. And then all of a sudden you can't go. And you were saying there's Victory fans who do travel to away games quite regularly. There will be numbers that have paid for flights, accommodation, transport. And what do they do?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there have been Victory fans tweeting out on social media. I noticed one fan saying that they'd been in touch with Wellington, all their accommodation, their flights to Wollongong, everything had all been booked and paid for.
Yep.
And then at the last minute, this has changed. And aside from the ticket, it's not their problem apparently. Say Wellington.
I don't blame Wellington for this either, because they would be bleeding money with this situation too. Let's think about it. They're getting $500 fans to a home game, but to do it 2 days out, it's there's not much forward planning going on. They should be playing it somewhere else for the broadcaster to say where's the best place to play it, or they play away games, because if they were to be the home team against Victory in Melbourne, they're going to get more than 500 people, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they're probably going to justify, the cost. But I don't know if it's a time thing or whatever. It's just not a good look. And we go from the high of Australian football of Saturday night with the cup final to a game where we'll be able to hear every kick, every player scream, every swear word, as it sometimes is with their wonderful league. It's just it's just disappointing, really.
Well, if this is going to continue, Wellington should give away all their home games and just play all away games.
Well, financially, that would probably make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's better for the league as well. You turn on the TV, there's actually fans in the stands all of a sudden. I mean, and I would like to see for these away fans, and there'll only be a couple of dozen of them, you'd imagine, for a midweek game in Wollongong.
Yep.
There's only the diehards from Victory, a club like that, would actually go. So it's not going to be an exorbitant expense. And for the APL, they're all in this together now. The owners said they would pump money into the league if they were able to run it. And, maybe that was before COVID, maybe those promises were made. But I think the APL should just dig into their pockets and reimburse these supporters, because they're the fans that we should be treasuring and taking care of. They're the fans that are passionate enough so that they will actually travel interstate and give an atmosphere to games that wouldn't have one. And these are the fans that we continually mistreat.
Absolutely, 100%. We need to embrace these football fans rather than trying to get the Euro snobs or the novices or the theatre goers to come to this game. We need to embrace the people that are going to go all the time. They should have just opened the doors somewhere. I mean, it's not like we talked about the broadcaster having to be, at the main grounds because that's where they'll set up and everything. But they've done some of the Australia Cup or the FFA Cup games when Apia played Western Sydney and those kind of things. They just open the doors and let the crowd in and have it at these grounds. But it's just really disappointing. It's interesting to see how that one goes.
Well, there's our take on that. So basically calling out the APL, take some leadership on this issue. Yes, Wellington Phoenix are bleeding money, and I understand why they've decided that, this course of action should be taken, because they didn't anticipate that they were going to be playing away from home for so long. But surely the APL can step in here, so at least reimburse the fans who travelled.
I mean, if they're basing them in Wollongong and they're going to that's their semi or pseudo home ground until they're allowed back to New Zealand, then that's fine. You need to actually open the gates. It's a pretty bad decision.
So from one Australian football triumph in terms of crowd and atmosphere and occasion to a bit of a travesty happening tomorrow night. That's the way of it sometimes.
That's the Oz Football Hour. That's pretty much we'll go through that. We won't touch the Socceroos, but we can do the rest.
Let's go to a break, and then we might touch on the Socceroos in their 2-2 draw versus Oman. On the other side, we're going to hear from our sponsors and then come back with more on the Oz Football Hour with Josh Parrish and Jason Goldsmith.
Since 1998, Lanco Group has been providing superior civil engineering solutions and advice to developers, local government and service authorities across Australia. Lanco Group is known for delivering sustainable, efficient solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website dkpco.com.au or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
Vickery looking to build. Barbarouses is quick. Is he in behind top or Stanley? It doesn't matter! Costa Barbarouses! Wow!
Like a salmon, a spawning salmon. And Diamante again. Oh, he's done it.
Unbelievable kick from here.
Well, it seems like a long time ago now, but Wednesday morning, the last time we did this show was the Tuesday night, so the Socceroos managed to squeeze in a disappointment for us in between the two shows. 3 a.m. kickoff for the fans here on the East Coast. I got up for it, Jason. I'm not sure if you did, but I have to say I went to bed somewhat regretting that decision.
I got up to watch it on delay, but actually Paramount weren't quick enough for me. So I got up at about 6:30, ready to watch it as live, and couldn't catch up. I wasn't quite ready there yet. So I did manage to catch it afterwards. Not unexpected for us to see them draw in the Middle East. Unfortunately, they blew a lead twice and got 1 point for the draw. So now the chances of finishing top two and getting automatic qualification pretty much out the window.
I would be tempted to say same old story, but it kind of was and it wasn't. I mean, some of the stuff that Australia played in the first half, getting Irvine further forward, playing on the front foot, not allowing Oman to counterattack too often with the field positions we were taking up and forcing them, pinning them back essentially, and eventually getting the goal with the penalty. Some of the better stuff we've seen from Graham Arnold's Socceroos, and it just all fell apart at the end of the game.
Yeah, it did. It did, and they were there was no crowd because of COVID, and they were missing some key players for COVID as well. So let's not.
I mean, Oman were missing, I think, 7 first teamers, so you should be beating them. Like, there's no real excuses for it.
If that's their B team, then we should be taking the 3 points. But as it stands, we will pretty much finish third in the group,
barring a miracle.
Yeah, and then we play the third place in the other group, and then if we win that. Currently, I think fifth. Who's fifth in South America? I think it's Uruguay who are ahead of Chile and Colombia. So
it was Peru last time I checked, but it may have changed.
There was some games for them, but it's not looking good. It's really not. And maybe is this the reset we need? Is it the new head coach that we need? I'm not sure. I don't think we don't have the cattle that we have done in the past few World Cups. But we'll see how we go. It's just disappointing, So we're all pumped up after the Vietnam game, and the rest of it we're on a bit of a wave there, a bit of excitement, and sort of fell straight back to earth. And then then we had Ange the next morning, so we jumped back up again on Thursday morning as that roller coaster week of Oz football. Hrustic didn't start, so so that was an interesting piece. And then he's had he's scored a brace on the weekend as well?
Yes, so he came off the bench for Eintracht Frankfurt and scored twice. One of them was deflected, I believe. But the second goal was the chip to the top of the box, straight from the corner kick, and he caught it clean on the volley into the ground and into the corner. So it was a beautiful, beautiful strike, and maybe with 2 goals off the bench, there's not much more you can do to play yourself into the first team. So I think he showed us what we were missing out on. I thought he was quite good when he came on for the Socceroos.
Yeah, yes, but not starting. We wanted him to start, as coming back.
Have to find a way to accommodate him.
He's our best player. He is our best player by miles at the moment. So anyway,
he seems to be kind of occupying the same role as Rogic in the team, and they don't seem to coexist too often, which is
they need to find a way to make that work, because Rogic has then scored again for Celtic on the weekend.
Twice.
So they're our form guys playing in decent leagues in Europe, so they're the ones we need to make work together. So we have to do something about that.
I was a little disappointed that Denny Johnroe wasn't called up to this squad. I think he can offer something a little bit different, and I think late in the piece against Oman, we needed somebody who could keep the ball. And with Irvine and Jego there as the midfield pairing, once Moy came off after his goal, which was a good hit, by the way, and he had one of his better games playing as the deepest midfielder. We need somebody who was a little bit more comfortable on the ball, could slow the pace of the game down, just manage it, keep the ball. And I think Jenny Journo offers that technically, and I'm not sure if Jego does. He's a bit more of a ground covering, pressing player. And I think we're missing more players like that. Games seem to get away from us too easily when we're ahead, and we've conceded a lot of goals from winning positions in this qualification campaign.
And he's playing a lot of minutes in France too, so we can't really...
Ligue 2, I'm not going to claim to have watched it too often, but I watched him at Melbourne City.
Yep.
You can tell he's a high caliber footballer, and it seems as if he's victim of Graham Arnold's policy of not throwing the young guys in with abandon. Certainly, I mean Tilio was sitting on the bench, and we had Craig Goodwin come on instead.
Yeah,
which I think is probably reflective of his approach throughout his coaching career. He's pretty cautious when it comes to playing the young players.
Super cautious, but our record. We keep saying our record in the Middle East is terrible. Like we don't do well there. I mean, there's obviously difference in terms of the conditions and the rest of it. But like we're not surprised by the result. We're disappointed by 2-2. No one's surprised or shocked, right? No one's surprised or shocked. So everyone's calling for Arnie to say things are great. What was his last one? Our goal difference is as good as a win. You know what? It's probably not, but. We'll see how we go. So we'll see what happens. If he takes us to the playoffs, and if we do make it through the Asian playoff to go to the South American one, so like it's the same route we took last time, except we're playing a South American team in the last leg if we get that far. So can't see us.
And they're one-off games in the Middle East.
They are one-off games too in the Middle East. So
we don't do well there. I'm to be honest, not that optimistic that we'd make it past UAE.
I don't think so either. And
coached by Bert van Marwijk. There's a little bit of cosmic symmetry that doesn't usually tend to play out well for the Socceroos.
No, it doesn't. And look, I haven't thought we would qualify as well. If you want to take the moral high ground, Qatar's probably a nice one to miss. But in terms of the travelling fans,
don't call it a boycott.
No, not at all. But I mean, look, since 2006, so there's 4 in a row. But we haven't won a game at the World Cup. We missed the last 2. Or we got a draw the last one and none the week before. We've won 2 games in World Cup history. So, it might be a good thing that we're not just making up the numbers in Qatar, and we get a reset where we go, right, we get a new coach, we get a new process, we get a new policy, or we just bring some kids in like John Rowe and these guys to change the process. So we'll see, because a lot of these guys too have been around for 3 or 4 campaigns now, if you look at it. So we'll see.
You know what frustrates me is that, I was quite concerned about our progress earlier in the campaign, but because we were winning, there was no cause for alarm. And particularly, I went pretty hard after that Vietnam game, where we did win, but I thought it was an absolutely shocking performance, and I was got a lot of blowback, from regular fans on Twitter, but also notable kind of media commentators and so forth, that, it was too hot. It was a terrible pitch. We win and we move on. It's not a problem. And I think we're seeing those chickens come home to roost now, that, the warning signs were there earlier, and it's only now that it's almost nailed on that we're going to miss the World Cup, that the alarm bells are going off.
Was it 7 or 8 in a row? That was the record in the qualification?
Yeah, I think we won 11 in a row, which was a total fool's gold as far as the winning streak goes, because we were beating minnows that were never really our rivals for World Cup participation.
That's it. You're wallpapering over the cracks that you see. Everyone could see it coming, and everyone's seen it coming. So anyway, we go again next month in March. Japan at home, Saudi Arabia away, who are the top 2 in the group. Yeah.
We hope and we pray and I don't expect to win.
No, neither of those actually, to be honest. But anyway.
Yes, indeed. Well, let's move on to the A-League then. Newcastle, enjoying seeing them back in action, and they did get a win for their troubles against Brisbane Roar. Angus Thurgate with a lovely winning goal, actually. It was a very, very nice strike. And I'm super impressed with just their foreign signings, the calibre. We haven't seen this team play for a while until the last 2 games that they've managed to get going. And I'm just impressed with, Daniel Pena as a totally unknown, Brazilian playmaker coming into the league. They've done well to pick him out.
Mm-hmm.
And Olivier Boumal as well, the winger, I thought was tremendously impressive on the flank. And Angus Thurgate's been the beneficiary. I think he's been a good player for a long time, but he's been a beneficiary of having higher caliber footballers around him in that midfield.
Really wet conditions too. It was hard. And the first goal was a freak occurrence, wasn't it? The own goal off the keeper.
Freak occurrence.
Sorry, thanks.
Nicely done.
Thank you. Good for the Jets. Again, they've missed a lot. What have they played 7 for the season or something? So they've got a lot of games to come back for. But for them to get a winner and a 2-1 win on a very wet sort of Thursday night, the diehard fans were there. Good for them. Good for Newcastle.
And for Adelaide 1, Sydney FC 2, the Cam Sober resurrection continues, the reclamation project, the rehab.
He's the guy, but the best thing about his opening goal was that Andy Harper just gave him the commentator's curse beforehand when he said, look, he's been very flat, Cam Sober. He hasn't done what we've seen him do in previous games, and it was only the 19th minute, and then, he scores the first one. So that was good. Stephen Moorcock equalised, so we had a bit of a game on our hands. The big performance, I think the difference with that was, so the returning Socceroos, Adelaide chucked straight on, so Craig Goodwin played, and Andrew Redmayne stayed on the bench for Sydney FC. And Hewitt Bell, 24-year-old reserve goalkeeper, he had an absolute fantastic game.
Yeah, and, arguably that performance was better than anything that Redmayne has put together this season. I don't remember him having a game so far this year where he made as many ridiculously good saves as Hewitt Bell did.
No. And then Hiroshi had the penalty to equalise, to make it 2-2, which was really late, which he saved too, which was just amazing. But he had plenty of good saves before that as well. He played an outstanding game. And the game before, apparently, he was quite good as well. I can't recall it too much, but that's just good. Again, we're producing good goalkeepers. But a nice win to Sydney.
I would like to see Redmayne go overseas, if I'm honest, to further himself. Because I don't really think he deserves to be in the Socceroos camps beyond, I think that Lawrence Thomas is a better goalkeeper in my opinion, but Redmayne could certainly prove me wrong if he goes to a better overseas league and is first choice. Whereas, Hewitt Bell is the kind of guy I'd like to see come through and play every week in the A-League. As contradicting certain national team coaches' old interview quotes, I think the A-League is a development league.
It needs to be a development
league. And he's 24 and he still hasn't broken through as a first choice keeper because of Sydney FC.
It needs to be a development league. We need to get these kids up and running and
he's
going
not a
overseas.
kid anymore.
Well, he's 24,
For a goalkeeper, I guess he's still young, but
I'd like to see Redmayne overseas as well. And I think is it antiquated to have 3 goalkeepers in your squad for these qualifiers too? So when's your third goalkeeper ever going to get a look in?
Tell that to Comoros in the African Cup of Nations. I don't know if you saw their left back having to start in goals after a couple of COVID cases.
Nice. No, well, the COVID's a different story rather than having three in your squad.
I don't know if it's FIFA mandated. It might be actually.
Must be. I think it is. Yeah.
You have to have 3.
Yeah.
Maybe we can have a rush goalie. See if we can sneak in Jenny Journo as a rush goalkeeper.
Maybe. Change it over. But anyway, nice win to Sydney. So, they keep on rolling along.
Western Sydney Wanderers 0, Western United 1. Alexander Prijovic with a thumping finish. But this was the kind of cautious, controlled, clean sheet performance that we've come to expect from Western United so far this season. No one can score against them.
No, very clinical. And it was the second game for Mark Rudan. And I was just looking at the Wanderers too. They've got a bit of they've got some decent players on the bench, in terms of names and stuff. So I went through it. They had Najareen Abini, Tate Russell, Dimi Petratos, and Terry Antonis all on the bench for the Wanderers when they started that game. That's fairly decent. You're looking at a few fringe Socceroos there, and the rest of it not getting any minutes, or not getting many minutes at all. But clinical win, a sort of a bit of a come down for the Wanderers after they started the Redan era with a win on when we go back to Wednesday night, Tuesday night?
Midweek, some kind of
Wednesday night. It was after the Socceroos.
It was, yeah. Miscellaneous A-League midweek kickoffs that all blur into each other after a while.
Well, that's the one I mentioned. There was not much of a crowd there, so you sort of get the highs and the lows. Jack Rodwell as captain, scored the winner for there, and people were calling for Socceroos. Call up for the English international is interesting.
Yeah, his wife is Australian. He's only played friendlies. I think technically he might be eligible, but
we We got to stop.
Come on.
We just need these false messiahs. We need to develop kids. We need to develop our own juniors.
I couldn't tell whether that take was a joke or not. I couldn't tell.
It was deleted. Anyway,
Okay, maybe not then.
Yeah.
Jack Rodwell, come on. I mean, honestly, I'm not sure if he should even be starting for the Wanderers, let alone playing for the Socceroos.
No, he's been really good, actually. I've rated him. Yeah, he's been pretty good. So if you want ex-Premier League, we've got a few ex-Premier League players. I mean, that's probably going to lift the profile a little bit. If you want ex-Premier League players, it's good to get them in their 20s, rather than later in their 30s and stuff like that. So
I guess it depends on the level of Premier League player.
He was on Man City's books, remember? So
Rodwell was a phenomenon when he was breaking through at Everton, but that was a long time ago, and he's had a sharp career dip to not playing in League One.
Let's see. Well, I think all the Netflix people with the Sunderland Till I Die probably fans might not have the same view of him. Anyway, he scored on Redan's debut, so that was a 1-0 win over Perth Glory. But they were COVID ravaged, the Glory. It's interesting to see that we're having all these games in a row, nearly one a night. How people are going to manage that fitness, the COVID recovery and the rest of it. So we'll see.
Well, I guess it's an opportunity for young players to get minutes out of necessity.
Yep.
And sometimes, like we saw at the back end of last season, you do get a few breakthrough players that make a name for themselves, even if the tension has gone out of it a little bit, or the intensity of the game isn't as high. But I would like to see Perth give more minutes to players like Giordano Colli. I think he's got something about him. Daniel Steins, I've liked the look of as well as an attacking player, as a creative kind of dribbler. Obviously, the whole narrative around Glory this season has revolved entirely around one player, and he's barely played at all. But
it's funny, isn't it? We had the first game where Sturridge got minutes because we got a sellout crowd in Perth, HBF Park. And then when Wellington had their game last season and there were only one game at home, they got a sellout crowd as well. So maybe absence makes the heart grow fonder for these guys. So let's open that border and get him playing at home, and then Sturridge will be fit and based there, and maybe he just plays home games because of the 4-hour flights, and we'll get a bit more publicity around them.
Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice. I mean, we've, I guess, got something to look forward to when Wellington Phoenix finally get home and Perth Glory the same. But it's whether that, I guess, interest sustains itself. And I sort of question whether Wellington would have been able to maintain anywhere near that level of support if they'd played this entire season at home. I think it would regress to the mean a little bit.
True, but they might have been motivating for the players a little bit. I'm not sure how they're doing it, to be honest. We got to be.
That's true.
Really got to think about the Phoenix and the Glory and what they're actually giving up in terms of trying to be a professional athlete if they're away from home for, it's going to be months on end at this stage. So it's quite a decent effort.
Well, with that, I think let's take a short break. We've got something very exciting coming up on the other side. Chris McLaughlin from the BBC in Scotland is going to join us. He's our semi-regular Scottish correspondent because Ange Postecoglou had a smashing Old Firm derby and followed it up with a 4-0 demolition of Motherwell in which Tom Rogic starred. So we've got that to break down, and he's sent to the top of the table with Celtic, but also some Aussies making their way at Hearts. And we'll see what Chris McLaughlin thinks of Cammy Devlin, and now Nathaniel Atkinson joining the ranks of Aussies playing in Scotland. And might even ask him if he's got any other secret Aussies up his sleeve that we could borrow for the national team. We'll come back on the other side of this break and catch up with Chris McLaughlin from the BBC.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website, dkpco.com.au, or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
Since 1998, Lanco Group has been providing superior civil engineering solutions and advice to developers, local government and service authorities across Australia. Lanco Group is known for delivering sustainable, efficient solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions.
With this great sporting nation who has yet to embrace fully the world's greatest game, and for so long of trying to have the game accepted. And when I'm up at the big football field in the sky, I just want people just to remember I told you so.
And suddenly the complexion of the game changes. Let's hope it doesn't, but this is the best period for Iran in the match.
Ali Daei, danger for Australia here, the flag's down! It's an equaliser!
You just feel for them, not just the boys, they are representative of so many people who make this game their life. It's just, I can't say anything, mate.
All right.
Especially as they have the impetus. Aloisi, Cahill, Cahill! Tim Cahill has done it again! What a goal by Tim Cahill! 2-1 Australia! Oh, it's a wonderful moment in Kaiserslautern! And Tim Cahill has come off the bench and maybe won the match for the Socceroos.
You're listening to FNR, Football Nation Radio.
Since 1998, Lanco Group has been providing superior civil engineering solutions and advice to developers, local government and service authorities across Australia. Lanco Group is known for delivering sustainable, efficient solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions.
You're listening to FNR, Football Nation Radio.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website dkpco.com.au or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
Das ist kein Abseits. Stellungsfehler. Hector. Und da ist das Tor. Die Iren führen mit 1:0 in der 70. Minute. Shane Long. Boah.
You're listening to FNR, Football Nation Radio.
Vickery looking to build. Barbarouses is quick. Is he in behind top or Stanley? It doesn't matter! Costa Barbarouses! Wow!
Like a salmon, a spawning salmon. And Diamante again. Oh, he's done it!
Unbelievable kick. Come on here.
Well, I imagine there were a fair few Australian football fans feeling particularly smug last Thursday morning as Celtic tore Rangers apart, thinking back to the scepticism that greeted his appointment over in Scotland. We were all fighting the good fight on Twitter, weren't we, Jason? Telling him he's good, give him a chance.
Breakfast Ange ball, like that midweek Scottish Premier League stuff's fantastic. But yeah, how good was it? Like at home, full crowd. I thought they were going to rip the stands down when they hit the 3-0 at before half time. It was amazing to watch.
One of the most scintillating performances I've seen this season by any team. And to help us break it down, we've got our semi-regular regular Scottish correspondent, Chris McLaughlin from the BBC in Scotland, joining us. Good morning to you, Chris.
Hi guys, how are you?
We're doing well, mates. Tell us about the atmosphere inside Celtic Park. It was all home fans, we understand, and it certainly felt that way.
Yeah, it was. There's a sort of ongoing issue just now between Celtic and Rangers that means that it's only home fans at the stadiums, which some people suggest doesn't quite make for the atmosphere that it used to be. But listen, as you guys said, the atmosphere on Wednesday night was absolutely incredible. And I think that probably, I mean, we know the Old Firm atmosphere is huge anyway, but that first half was just absolutely incredible. I have never, that I can remember, seen such a one-sided 45 minutes of football in an Old Firm game. It was, I mean, Celtic completely ripped Rangers apart. And I think that had something to do with the atmosphere. All the fears that Celtic fans perhaps had that, you know, maybe this Rangers squad might have raised their game for Celtic, who were going well anyway. Rangers had been struggling for form a little bit going into that game. But listen, they've still got a good squad, and I think there was a little bit of fear among some Celtic fans that they might raise their game, but they couldn't manage it. They couldn't live with Celtic in that first 45.
Yeah, I thought, you know, I was with the conventional wisdom on this one, and I thought you needed the kind of back and forth between the home and away fans to get the best possible atmosphere. Turns out that's not true at all. You just need the home team to score 3 amazing goals inside the first 45 minutes, and then you're fine. I mean, the quality of those goals, the intensity with which Celtic played in that first half was off the charts. Is that what they're doing week in, week out at Scotland?
Yeah, this seems to be, and you guys will probably know this better than me, but this seems to be Postecoglou's, it seems to be his way, certainly in the first half. Look, absolutely go for it. Smother teams, make sure that we hit them with a knockout blow in the first 45 minutes and they won't come back, and that's what happened. It's worked a lot this season for them. Some of the criticisms, to be fair, of Postecoglou's side up to now have been that they can't do it for 90 minutes. They don't have the fitness. I'm not surprised given the speed and the intensity of the football in the first 45. But yeah, it seems to be what they do. What I couldn't quite believe about Rangers the other night, and it was evident from the first couple of minutes, is that they kind of sat off Celtic a little bit. And anyone who's had any joy against Ange Postecoglou's side this season usually get in their faces, and Rangers bizarrely seem to kind of sit back and try and soak up, and we know what happened.
So tell us, Chris, in terms of Ange turning around the media pundits and the Celtic fans coming from, we know what he's done and what he's capable of, but there was a lot of feedback that we were getting secondhand back here about how has Celtic, a wonderfully large club, recruited this guy, and what's he going to bring to the table? And look at his recruits, and how's he managed to turn that around given what he's done with the squad and being on top of the table?
Good question. I mean, I wish I had the answer, to be honest, because a lot of the plaudits that have come his way have been down to the fact that he's completely rebuilt the squad. I mean, you look at the sort of starting 11 in the past few weeks. You've got Tommy Rogic, Forrest, McGregor. Other than that, really, it's a completely new Celtic. I listened to an interview with him the other day, and he said, someone asked him, look, are you ahead of where you thought you were going to be by now? And he said, well, yeah, kind of, but he also said, I knew that I wasn't going to get the time. I knew that at Celtic, being someone who was relatively unknown, I wasn't going to get 2 or 3 years to rebuild this. So he knew that he had to, one, rebuild, and 2, be successful. And he's managed that, and you don't see that in football very often. You guys might not know it quite in the same way we do here, that at Celtic and Rangers, there are no prizes for second best. and I mean that with the fans.
Yes.
If you don't win, you're out. And especially, you're out the door even quicker if you're not a recognised name. So Ange Postecoglou has turned things around very quickly, but he had to, because if he didn't, he would not have had the grace that, say, a Steven Gerrard perhaps may have had because he didn't come with that name. And you're right, he's turned around the media as well. We're running out of superlatives for Ange Postecoglou here, to be honest.
Tommy Rogic is an interesting one. He's been at Celtic for a long time, but he obviously injury prone and not being able to run out the 90 minutes and a few of those things. His form seems to be next level as well. He's certainly for the national team for us. We've reaped the benefits, but he seems to be doing better this season as well.
Yeah, and I've noticed something about Tom Rogic this season, and he's one of those players who sometimes can look a little bit lackluster. He can look sometimes a little bit disinterested, but then he just turns and does something special. And I've kind of noticed a happier Tom Rogic this season. He looks as though he's enjoying his football more. Now, maybe he always was, but he just looks as though he is. And it's easy to put that down to the fact that he is playing with a man that knows him and knows his style. I think that we're seeing the very best of Tom Rogic. You're right. Tom Rogic for the past few seasons was kind of used as the player who would come on and change a game because he's got something special. He would usually get half an hour, 60 minutes, but he's putting in 90 minutes now. He's putting in a performance across 90 minutes now, and he looks happier. And you're seeing, listen, the goal he scored against Motherwell the other night was just typical Rogic. That open up your body, curl it into the top corner as though you do that every day. I think that Rogic and the performance and the turnaround of Rogic has really been key to what Postecoglou's tried to do at Celtic, and it's working. It's really working.
The thing about Scottish football is that the vultures are always circling when it comes to your best players, and it's always hard to keep hold of them. But Ange seems to be finding players from all over the place. Is it him doing most of the recruiting? Because it seems to be with the 4 players who've come from Japan. His fingerprints are all over those signings. Does Celtic have other people who are involved, the director of football or so forth, that greenlight these signings? So how are they finding these players?
Yeah, it's a good question. Again, they don't have a director of football as such right now, and I have noticed on Twitter a few Rangers fans saying, how are these guys, how are Celtic finding these guys? We've got a director of football, we've got a whole scouting department, and this all seems to be coming through Postecoglou. Yeah, he's clearly using his contacts in Asia to good effect. Hatate alone, everyone here is scratching their heads, everyone. And I think British football is scratching their heads about how this guy managed to stay under the radar for so long. He's absolutely sublime.
He's found relatively cheap too, wasn't he?
Yeah, 1.4 million, I think they paid for him, which is, absolute robbery in all honesty. I expect that he will go on if Hatate continues in the vein that he's in the form that he's in, and he continues to grow and build. He will go for big money to the English Premiership, I would guess, because his performances have been absolutely out of this world. And you're right, Postecoglou is tapping into a market that has not been tapped into much in Scottish football, UK football, and I think that Celtic are absolutely reaping the benefits of that.
I guess Celtic do have a little bit of history with Japanese players. You think back to Nakamura, who was so well loved there. So I guess it resonates with the fans a little bit when they find these hidden gems from Asia that you've never heard of before and suddenly become your heroes overnight.
You're right, Nakamura. Celtic fans still talk very, very fondly of Nakamura, who was one of the best, wasn't he, Japanese players of all time. And I remember going over to Japan to do a documentary, actually, when he signed, and there was another Japanese player called Koki Mizuno, who also signed for Celtic at the time. Wasn't quite as successful as Nakamura. And what Celtic get, as well as a very good player, is the ability to tap into a market over there that can be financially very attractive. I don't know yet just how much that is the case with the players they've got. I can only imagine it's something that they're working on. I would imagine that when the doors of the world are thrown open again after COVID, there will be tours of Japan. So A, they're getting very, very good players, and B, the upside and the bonus is they're tapping into what is a very lucrative market financially.
Well, certainly the proof will be in the pudding for Ange when it comes to the business end of the season and the title challenge and so forth. But is the style of play beginning to turn heads? Are people from outside of Scotland beginning to sit up and take notice of how Celtic are playing?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It's certainly, I remember the other night seeing Andrew Robertson from Liverpool, obviously the Scotland captain, a few others from down south tweeting about Hatate and saying, where did this guy come from? He's absolutely incredible. So I think you're right. I think they are. And what is really impressive to see about it is that Ange Postecoglou just seems to be kind of taking it all in his stride. He's got that Aussie swagger that seems to suggest, yeah, you know, I've got it. What's the big deal? And I think Celtic fans are really buying into that. That he has this confidence to say, look, guys, you know, it's no big deal. I've got this. I know what I'm doing. I know where we're going. And yeah, going on from talking about Hatate, if Ange Postecoglou continues to set the heather light the way he has done, yeah, I can only imagine that other teams are going to take notice and other leagues are going to take notice as well.
How is he like to deal with in press conferences? Because he was pretty prickly at the start, and we know he can be a bit grumpy when he's asked about certain things that he doesn't want to answer. But he's also got this sort of immense quotability about him, Ange, that he's sort of supremely self-confident but entirely without, I guess, pretension.
Yeah, you know, he's got, I would say that journalists here are still wary. I think that he certainly makes you think twice about the question you're going to ask. I think that's fair. And listen, that's no bad thing for journalists sometimes who can ask daft questions. We know that, myself included. So, yeah, that's no bad thing. In terms of quotability, you're absolutely spot on. He said something the other night after the game, which I think has actually gone worldwide, and he absolutely nailed it. What he said was, there were, of the 60,000 people who came into the stadium, he said, I know that a lot of those people would have had problems to deal with. And he said, and for 90 minutes, we've made them forget about those problems. And that, for me, is special. And it's those little things that really resonate with football fans. Old style football fans who know the joys of football and know what football means. And he seems to get that. He seems to understand what football means to people. And he comes out with these quotes that proves that. And yeah, and I think that's what makes the Celtic fans love him all the more, to be honest.
I think he's a football fan himself, first and foremost, from long. You should read Changing the Game for anyone who needs to listen to what Ange thinks. Whilst we're on Aussies in Scotland, tell us about Hearts, Chris. We've got Cam Devlin and Nathaniel Atkinson have just made it across there as well. How are they going?
Yeah, okay. I think, Hearts have been tapping into the Australian market for some time, haven't they? And they continue to do that. There's clearly a link there somewhere. And, well, Ryan McGowan, I suppose, is the obvious one, isn't it? Hearts at the moment are a club who don't quite know what they're doing. One minute they're great, the next minute they're all over the place. But in general, doing pretty well. They're a good club, Hearts, a very good club. It's if you ever get a chance to come over here and go to a game at Tynecastle, it's one of the best atmospheres you'll find in football. It's very, very intense. So it's early days, I think, to see in terms of how those guys are doing. But they're a very good club. And they've got a very good manager as well. And there is a history of decent Australian players coming through that club. So I think they'll do just fine, to be honest.
What do you think are Nathaniel Atkinson's chances of nailing down a regular first-team place as that kind of right wing-back in that system? He's got in lately because I think there's been an injury to more established players ahead of him. But, we're looking at him as a potential Socceroos prospect and so forth. But, there were times in the A-League where he couldn't get off the bench at Melbourne City. So it's sort of, we all know the ability he has, but it's sort of slightly bizarre that, he's been the one plucked out of the A-League.
Yeah, I think technically he looks good. He's a kind of player who looks pretty comfortable on the ball. I think what he will probably have to get up to speed with quickly is the intensity of of the football in Scotland, because you don't get, even at right back, you don't get much time in the ball. It's very, very difficult for players who are used to having a little bit of, having a little bit more time and space. It can be very difficult for those players to get up to speed with the blood and thunder that sometimes is in Scottish football. So if he can adapt to that and retain that obvious technical ability that he has, there's no reason why he can't. You're right. I think Michael Smith has been at right back for some time, and he's played very well. He's injured at the moment, but listen, we know how that works in football. When someone goes out, someone else can take the chance, and there's no reason why he can't if he can do those things that I mentioned.
Now, Chris, we've been sharing a few players in the national team of late with, I'm talking about Martin Boyle and Harry Souttar for us and Lyndon Dykes for Scotland. There's a gentleman that's just joined the A-League that started with a bang at Hibs, got a few caps for Scotland, and then had a few extra clubs and a few disciplinary reasons, but he's just landed in Australia and he's starred with Central Coast Mariners with a goal on debut, and that's Jason Cummings. Can you tell us a little bit about his history?
How long have you got?
We like characters down here. We want characters. Yeah.
Oh, you've got a character. You've certainly got a character, that's for sure. Jason Cummings will light up any dressing room in any football club across the world. He's not short of confidence. He is certainly a character. But to be fair, on his game, he's not short of ability either. I think the big the big thing about Jason Cummings is if a manager can find that balance between taming him and getting the best out of him but not stifling his character, then you've got a very, very good player. He's got great natural ability. He's got that thing that all good strikers should have, and that's confidence, a bit of arrogance. But he's as daft as a brush. In all honesty, he's a daft and likeable. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. He's a likeable guy. But if you're looking for a character, you've found one in Jason Cummings, believe me.
Excellent. He's got an Australian mum too. So at first press conference interview after his game where he scored, saying, yes, I'm happy to play for the Socceroos if you pick me. So there you go.
Yeah, no, listen, I've interviewed Jason Cummings many times. I know him fairly well through that. And good luck to the manager who's trying to manage him. But if he does manage it, he's got a very good player.
Well, it's a quite sort of, how would you describe Nick Montgomery? Sort of dour, stern Yorkshireman?
Yes, that's his coach, yeah.
Yeah.
So it could go badly.
Extra good luck.
Oh, goodness. Chris McLaughlin, we could talk to you all day, but you've got places to be, I'm sure. Thank you so much for making the time for us on FNR, and we look forward to catching up with you again so you can say more nice things about Ange and stroke that Australian football ego. We love that.
We need it too. We
just like someone to pay attention to us. That's all it is.
Well, you're certainly making us sit up and notice. So yeah, absolutely.
Chris McLaughlin from the BBC. Follow his Twitter. It's in the title of the stream. Fantastic to have him join us here on FNR. And that's all the time we've got for today's show. Thank you for joining me, Jason, and we'll catch you again next week. Anything you're looking forward to in the week of Oz football with games left, right and centre in the A-League? Maybe some of them will even have fans at them.
Don't know. A quick shout out. Jason Hoffman plays his 250th A-League games tonight. So good luck to him. And then, just keep watching, keep looking at Paramount and keep looking around. There's a game on nearly every night.
Yes, in the women's as well. So no radio dub tonight. Pakua will be coming in tomorrow instead. That's a time slot shift for this week. So women's stuff will be covered tomorrow at 6 p.m. We've got Western United with the Green Room as well and the EPL show. So a triple bill tomorrow night here at FNR. But until then, it is goodbye for now.
Vickery looking to build. Barbarouses is quick. Is he in behind top or Stanley? It doesn't matter! Costa Barbarouses! Wow!
Like a salmon, a spawning salmon. And Diamante again! Oh, he's done it!
Unbelievable kick from Maria.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs